Mercedes is on a bit of a roll right now. The C-Class has been a sales smash, a new E-Class is round the corner, and the S-Class rules the roost for luxury cars. But those are all saloons, so what about SUVs? The GLC is here to finally plug a gap in the UK market that Mercedes has left open for years, and aims to take on the Range Rover Evoque, Audi Q5 and BMW X3 in the process. Now, the last thing I want to do is bore you, but for anyone thinking that GLC sounds a little bit odd, here's a quick lesson in why Mercedes calls its SUVs this way. So the G, that stands for Geländewagen, which roughly translates from the German as terrain vehicle. The C, that stands for the model which in the normal range is associated with in terms of size, which means you go from GLA all the way up to GLS, A-Class and S-Class. And the L, apparently, even according to Mercedes, is just a linking letter to get you from one to the other. Still following me? Good. Whatever you want to call it, the GLC is a very smart looking thing. It might not have the glamour push chic of a Range Rover Evoque, but there is some very fine premium detailing when you get up close. This AMG line model struts its stuff best, with 19-inch alloy wheels, chromed front and rear bumpers, and these lovely adaptive LED headlights too. Sadly, the entry-level SE model does look a bit more dowdy, but the Sport in the mid-range is a nice halfway house between the two. That upmarket appeal extends to the GLC's interior too. It's got exactly the level of quality and luxury that you'd expect of any big Mercedes, with soft touch materials here throughout, this tablet style central display which is standard on every model, and an unfussy and minimalist design here on the center console. The driving position is generally good, although the pedals are slightly offset to the right hand side. However, you don't sit up quite as high as you do in some other SUVs, so you can't quite lord it over other traffic like you would in, say, a Range Rover Evoque. Even so, forward visibility is very good, and these sport seats are very comfortable and supportive as well. There are some peculiarities that you'll have to get used to if you've never driven a Mercedes before though. So the gear selector is actually up here on the right hand stalk of the steering column, so you control the wipers and the lights here on this side, and the seat controls are up here on the doors. So the Mercedes has its premium image nailed down, but the utility part of the SUV equation hasn't been forgotten. The door bins, for example, are really well designed, and they're shaped so you can hold a couple of bottles at the time. There's places to put your wallet and your keys, and even a massive central storage cubby here in the armrest, and absolutely shed loads of head and legroom for those sat in the back, even with this optional panoramic sunroof fitted. Better yet, this boot has been designed with families in mind. It opens automatically on every single version. This load area is lovely and flat, and the back seats are spring loaded, which means they drop down at the touch of a button, sit perfectly flush with the boot floor, and make loading and unloading maneuvers a total doddle. Picking your preferred engine in the GLC should be a pretty simple task, as there's just two to choose from. They both use the same 2.1 litre diesel engine under the bonnet, they've both got four-wheel drive, and they're both mated to a 9-speed, smooth, slushy automatic transmission. Right now I'm driving the 250D, which is the more powerful version, and I'm quite glad about that too, because despite sharing the same 129 gram per kilometre output and mid-50s economy of its lesser sibling, the 220D, it does a fairly good impression of a larger diesel V6 when you're on the move. Low down response is okay, although it does clatter a bit as it starts up and when it's cold. But once you're into the mid-range, it's smooth and really flexible. 0 to 62 miles an hour takes around 7.6 seconds, but the gearbox is probably best when it's left in auto. You can switch it into manual and cycle through the driving modes, but it can feel a bit clunky, particularly at low speed, and the changes aren't as instant as you'd like. All the controls are very light, some might say a little bit too light when it comes to this steering, but that does make the GLC very easy to drive. There are 3 different suspension options to choose from, and they present something of a dilemma. If you value ride comfort above all else, then we would recommend going for the optional adaptive air suspension. It is a little expensive though. The car we're in now, the AMG line, that's got a lowered sports suspension which is a little bit stiffer, and frankly it's borderline in terms of comfort, particularly on scruffier town roads where those in the back will get jostled around a little more than they might want to. The upshot of that though is very tidy handling. You can really hustle this thing down the road, and when you do so there's plenty of cornering grip and the body stays nicely tied down. Having said that, if you are looking for a more engaging, sporty SUV, then this isn't probably the one we'd recommend, as the BMW X3 certainly feels that bit more precise and is a little bit more fun to drive. The GLC is a compelling alternative to the usual suspects in this class, and if you like the looks, interior quality, generous amount of kit and surprising practicality, you'll be more than happy with your new Mercedes. Niggles with the diesel refinement and ride comfort on some versions remain, but put those aside and the GLC is an excellent all-rounder that's well worth your attention. If you enjoyed watching this video, click the button to subscribe to our channel or leave us a comment and let us know what you think of the Mercedes GLC. If you want to see more video reviews like this one, click the window on the top right. If you'd like to see a review of the BMW X3, click the window on the bottom right.